It's NFL Championship Sunday. We break down the games, give you our best bets, and it all starts right now. Hey guys, it's Matt from GrandSlamBettors.com, and we have a best bet for each championship game this weekend. But first, if you're new to Grandstand Bettors, go ahead, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any of our picks and predictions, including our daily free picks that are starting here in about 3 weeks after the Super Bowl. And while you're at it, smash that like button for sweeping last week's divisional games, and we're now 4-1 on the 2022 playoffs. But without further ado, let's dive in to Championship Sunday, and we're going to start with the AFC Conference Championship game. This one set to kick off at 3:10 p.m. Eastern Time on Sunday between the Cincinnati Bengals and the Kansas City Chiefs. Chiefs favored by 7 in this one with the over-under set at 54.5. Now, just 4 weeks ago, these two teams did play each other in Week 17, and the result was a Bengals win, 34-31. The Chiefs' passing attack, though, is on fire right now, and the Bengals' secondary, they're giving up 250 yards about per game through the air. Now, the Chiefs, they're 4th in the NFL in points per play, and they have one of the highest scoring percentages in the red zone at 62%. Bengals' first priority has to be stopping this offense because it is very hard to outscore them despite how good of an offense you might have, as the Bengals do, as we saw that last week against the Bills in Arrowhead. Now, on the other side of the ball, talking about the Bengals offense, Joe Burrow and Jamarr Chase, they have just been absolutely tearing it up this season. In Week 17, in that game against the Chiefs, they connected for 266 yards and 3 touchdowns on 11 receptions. Defending Chase is going to be a massive task for the Chiefs defense, especially if Matthew is ruled out for the game. Now, one way their defense can help out their secondary is putting pressure on Joe Burrow. Burrow last week, as we know, was sacked 9 times against the Titans. And the Chiefs, they have 2 very good rushers in Chris Jones and Frank Clark, who can cause problems for Joe Burrow and that Bengals offensive line. Although the spotlight has been on Burrow and Chase all season, the Bengals do have a dangerous rushing attack led by Joe Mixon, who carried the ball for 1,000 yards this season and had 16 total touchdowns. He actually only carried the ball 12 times in that Week 17 meeting, so it will be interesting to see if he's incorporated more into the offense this time around, or if the Bengals just continue to attack that weak Chiefs secondary. So who are we betting in this AFC Championship game? Well, KC, in their last 7 games, they have scored at least 28 points, and they're averaging 37 points per game over that stretch. Very few defenses have been able to stop this team, and they're facing a Bengals defense that ranked 18th in yards per game and 17th in points per game this season. Now, the Chiefs' defense, they've had their issues this season as well, as we saw last week, but in Arrowhead Stadium in the playoffs, it could be a whole other story, especially when it comes to their championship games. In the last 2 conference championship games, the Chiefs have won by an average of 12.5 points, and this is the first time the Bengals have been in this game since 1988. Kansas City's defense, they're going to presumably dial up the pressure here on Burrow, force him to get outside the pocket, and keep Chase's production limited. So with all that being said, we're going to take the Kansas City Chiefs -7 over the Bengals in the AFC Championship game. Now, we do expect this number to probably reach 7.5, and it already might have done so before this video comes out. So we do like it at 7.5. However, maybe cut down your unit size in half just to go on the safe side there. Now, just following the AFC Championship game, the LA Rams will host the San Francisco 49ers in the NFC Championship game. This one at 6:45 p.m. Eastern Time. This will be the 3rd installment of this matchup on the season. Rams, they are favored by 3.5 points. The over-under set at 45.5 here. 49ers, they're coming off what many may say is a lucky win against Green Bay, and we kind of sort of agree with that assessment, but hey, when you make special team plays like they did last week and the other team just fails to execute, you're going to maybe find a win sitting in your lap, and that's exactly what happened last week with the 49ers and the Packers. The 49ers offense, they were mediocre at best last week. Only 212 yards total, 106 on the ground, 106 through the air, and they went 4 of 11 on third downs and failed to even score an offensive touchdown all game. Now, that did get them into the NFC Conference Championship game, but they're going to need a much better effort this week if they're going to make the Super Bowl. The bread and butter, though, for the San Francisco 49ers all season has been their rushing attack, but this week, those yards that have been so easy to come by, those might be hard to find against this Rams rushing defense. The Rams, in their 2 playoff games thus far, have not allowed a team to rush more than 61 yards. We are not surprised by this, as the Rams do have a top 5 rushing defense, giving up on the season less than 100 yards per game. Jimmy G, who has yet to throw for a touchdown in the postseason, may be asked to carry the 49ers offense this week if they can't get that rushing game going. Now, the 49ers averaged the second least amount of pass attempts per game at 29, only ahead of Russell Wilson in Seattle. However, despite not throwing the ball much, they do rank 12th in the NFL with over 236 yards per game through the air, having the second best yards per pass in the NFL at 8.5. Matching up with the LA Rams, who have a secondary that ranks in the bottom third of the league, this might be their best chance to win the game, airing it out with Garoppolo. Now, the LA Rams, on the other hand, they play the exact opposite that the 49ers try to do. They sling the ball almost 40 times a game and have a top 5 passing attack in the NFL with over 275 yards through the air per game. Now, in their 2 playoff games, the Rams have thrown 600 yards passing and 4 touchdowns with no interceptions. Now, the 49ers, they have a very stout secondary, only giving up about 200 yards passing per game. And let's be honest, Stafford has struggled against the 49ers this season. In the previous 2 matchups, he's only thrown for about an average of 240 yards per game, but he has had 2 interceptions in each of those games. Now, all season, the Rams have not had a very good rushing attack, but Cam Akers, he did miss most of the season and is now back, giving that rushing attack a little bit of a boost in correlation with Sony Michel. Just 2 weeks ago, the Rams rushed for over 140 yards against Arizona, but last week, as Akers took that lead role at back, he only had 48 yards on 24 carries. More of the same could happen this week. 49ers, they have a great rushing defense as well. They actually sit just behind the Rams, only giving up a little over 100 yards per game. Now, in the postseason matchups, the 49ers have not allowed a lead back to go over 41 rushing yards. So, again, looks like Stafford and company are going to have to throw the football. So, what is our best bet for the NFC Championship game? Well, this one is going to be a great game, and we think this could come down to another last-second field goal to send one of these teams to the Super Bowl. These 2 teams, they're going to go into this one wanting to have a balanced attack, but as we've seen with both defenses, you just can't run on either one. So with weapons like Kupp, Deebo Samuel, Ayuk, OBJ, and more on both sides, there's really no reason to force the run here. We think Jimmy G's going to have to win this game with his arm, and Stafford's just going to continue to sling the football. With the 49ers averaging nearly 9 yards per pass play, and Kupp and the wide receivers the Rams have, who can just pop off for a 75-yard touchdown very quickly, we're going to take, in the NFC Championship game, 49ers-Rams over 45.5 points. Now, we're going to be having our first ever Grandstand Bettors Championship Sunday megacast starting at 3 p.m. on Sunday, where we're going to be doing live play-by-play and dive into live betting for both games. Join us for 7 hours of football and fun as we find out who's going to be playing in this year's Super Bowl. In the meantime, we are on Patreon. Head on over to Patreon. Join a tier. $6.99 is the lowest tier. You'll get a sports pick each and every day. We look forward to you joining that community. And while you're at it, head on over to grandstandbettors.com, become part of our family, and start living that grandstand life. But, as always, sit back, relax, enjoy the weekend, and we'll see you live for Championship Sunday.